Hi, my name is Matt and welcome. This is a tutorial series when I show you how to create an RPG game mechanics. But before we start, I want to apologize for being absent for 2 months. But I was horribly busy and I didn't even touch Unity for this time. So I'm sorry, but I came back and I'm ready to create more tutorials in this series. So let's go ahead and jump into Unity. I've spent some time figuring out where we left, and it looks like we've created our inventory, which is basically 2 items for now, an Uriziel and a potion of healing. And we used constructors for weapon and a potion, which are basically a class that inherits from item class. And as I realized that potion wasn't serializable, actually I missed it, so just type system serializable in a potion class here. And okay, so today I will cover how to save our inventory state, because it's like obvious things. You usually in your game you would like to save the inventory state. Okay, so if you remember, I've written an IO class, which basically has 3 methods, and this is some kind of generic programming, which is always complicated, but I think I've covered it up, and we use it to save information about our input. And because we've written this class now, saving information about our inventory will be really easy. So we need to go into classes and add another class, which is of course serializable, and this is class called inventory data. And one and only thing that we will store here is a list of items called, let's say, items. Make sure it's public, and now we need some public methods. First is just save inventory. Let's call it save inventory. It does not take any parameters. And first of all, we need to create an instance of this class, because this class is what we can written into a file. We cannot really write to a file like this whole class, because it's none of your favor and it's attached to our player, and I cover it up, of course. So what we've created other class, which is basically like data container. We assign every variables that we want to store, then we serialize it to a file, then we can close the game, open it again, take this class, this file, when we've saved this class, deserialize it, and write it, and read it, and assign our variables again. And if you watched another video when I was storing information about our input, which is here, you know all of this. So let's go ahead and create an instance of this class. So inventory data equals new inventory data. Of course, it does not have to be this name specific, but without capital I, but you can name it ABC, it doesn't really matter. But if you use it once, it doesn't matter actually. And now inventory data items, if you don't have it right here, it's because you didn't make this public, and it must be public, equals inventory What is inventory? This is the inventory. This is our list of items, which is public, which is attached to our game object and stuff like that. And this is what we want to remember. Okay. Now, this is the time we use methods from this class. So save and load. First, saving. IO, which is the name of the class, static class containing those methods. That's save. And now generic programming. So this is the type of, this is a class that you want to save, which is inventory data. Now we need to pass an instance of this class, which is class to save, which is inventory data without capital I. And file name player. Let's name it like that. I will actually copy this because I will need it in a minute. And I will also debug that inventory was saved. Another public void should be load inventory. And I will just do it very same way that we've done it here, because I do not want to confuse you. Inventory data equals io.load inventory data. And of course without those brackets, because oh, okay, I'm sorry, I need to pass the name of the file that we want to get this class from. So this is the binary file, and the whole patch to this file is written here, which is application.persistent data path // plus the file name, which is this. And if we have a file, that we will do it, but first we need to check if the file exists. So if io that file exists and the same name, and if so, I will and actually it's easiest way to do it, which is just because it returns the deserialized class, which is inventory data. So it has its parameters like public variables and stuff like that, and we can just write that items, and of course it doesn't make sense from now, but I will just type inventory equals. So what it does, it says that take my list of items called inventory, which is here, and deserialize a file on this path, on this name, as an inventory data class, and because it's inventory data object, it has a list of items, and assign it. And I will also debug that inventory also loaded. And in another case, I will just debug that log that inventory wasn't loaded. There is no file. Okay, and we can go ahead and try to run it, but we will get an error. Okay, I thought we should have an error. Why on earth did not we? Okay, because I've forgotten to actually use this class. So I type save inventory. And now, when we try to save it, we will get an error. And the error says that Unity engine that game object is not marked as serializable. And it should make sense actually, because it's really hard to serialize game objects. Where it is? Okay, I will find my way. It's here. So we are storing a game object in our item class as a model. So as I said, we will need to like preview our item in inventory window, stuff like that. But actually this problem does not complicate much, because what we can do is just do not have a string here, do not have a game object here, but just a string storing the path the model is stored. I will show you in a minute. I press Ctrl H to change CModel to CModel path, and I click replace all, and it replaced all of them. Okay, so now I have to go back into my player's inventory, and here in the constructor I use game object, which is just resources that load, and I load this object, which should be over here. And actually now I do not need to store the object, I need to store just the path to the object, so I will leave it like this. Even easier. And if I will really need to see the object, this is the path. And actually here I cannot use empty game object anymore. As far as I remember, when I write a path that does not exist, Unity will accept that, will not throw an error. So where's the problem anymore? I don't get it. It's string and it's also string. So what's the point? It wasn't saved. Okay. Now I got an information that inventory was saved. You can even output this. I probably said that before, but you can output this. Go to this. This is a string. You can output this and go to this folder and see that this file exists. We don't really have time for that. Just you have to believe me. And now I can prove it in a different way. I will comment all of this, so I won't add anything to my inventory at start of the game. And as you see, when I click to my game manager, nothing's here. And when I set low input, load inventory, of course, I'm sorry. Inventory was loaded, and I've got everything back. And notice that here is a path of an object, which is a string, not a game object. Okay, so now we can load and save our inventory, but now we want to be able to add items from the game to our inventory, for example, by you know, you can find some sort and okay, click it and it goes to my inventory. So we will do that in a minute. Let's start by creating an item to pick up, and this will be of course a sort because we do not have many other 3D models. And I will go to the models, grab challenger sort model. It's pink because there is no texture, and instead of just assigning the texture, I will first copy that, Ctrl D, actually I duplicate it, and call it like still sort, and just red sort, red. And why did I? Because I want to change the color at least. I will make it red, of course. And it should be darker. Looks okay. And I do not want this color change to affect other stuff that we have. So for example, this sort is still in the normal color, and this guy isn't. This guy is red because I'm using different material. Okay, and now I will add a rigid body to it and a box collider. I will get out. I will move it up. So now I will just drag and drop it over here. And I will change the name to, and I will hit apply. And you see no changes done to this guy because it's completely different for Unity. When we have this, and actually what I realized just is there is a mesh collider, and it shouldn't be, it should be box collider. Mesh colliders are not cool in general. Okay, and let's make the mass same. Okay, now it's basically the same. So now we've got an item that lies on the. I thought it's on the ground, but looks like we've lost it. Why on earth did it go through the ground? Let's hit apply and try it again. It really shouldn't. My God, why is this happening? Okay, so now it's okay. Okay, so just do not stay on it for a long time because it may go through the ground. Anyway, so now I want to click it, and it will disappear from the scene and appear in my inventory. So there are two parts of it. First is basically the clicking, and the part that we see that the item appears in the inventory. And the second one that we will start from is that we need to store information about what item is it, what's its value, what's its name, in a script. So I will create a script called item info. And basically, yes, open it up. I will leave, of course, monolithic here because I just said that it will be attached to every object which is an item. And okay, so first, how do we store information? The easiest and most brutal, of course, way, which is just the public item info, which is because item class is serializable, as you probably remember. Okay, but I need to first drag and drop this class here. So we've got it here, and actually I will also drag and drop it to my another item, because then I will forget about it. So let's go to scripts, item info, and just drag and drop it. I will hit apply on both and delete this guy from scene. So name is, of course, like, let's say still sort. Description is just a sort. I think school shorter. Let's say it's worth 200 gold, and I do not really set the model path manually, because I know this item this item is in resources folder, in an item folder, and the name is basically this one. So what I will do, I will just type item info dot model path equals, and I need to check that actually. Let's go to plain inventory. So the beginning is same as here, items and slash. Now I add to it a string, which is game object that name. And what it does, it on the start function, which is the beginning of the game, it fills the model path with items, which is the name of the folder, and this guy is basically then the same as the name of the game object, which is this. Oh, I hope you understand that. Okay, so now what we want to add this to our inventory on a click. So first we need a collider, and yes, there is a collider attached to the game object right now, but when we will create other objects, we may, for example, forget about the collider, and this scripts of picking act and clicking needs a collider, because it won't work without it. So I want to make sure that there is a collider by typing requires component type of collider, and basically it says that to the game object that the script is attached to, there must be a component which inherits from collider. It can be box collider, mesh collider, sphere collider, no matter what, but it must be some collider. And for example, now when I pause the scripts, I cannot really remove it, which may be actually annoying when on this stage of the creation, when you like change your mind, want to delete it, and you've got an error and you cannot do it. But later, when there is much people working on your project and someone wouldn't really know about that, it may be helpful, and it's also worth to show you that you can do it right that way. Okay, so now the clicking part. The clicking is very easy if you know how to do that, of course, because you just need to create a function called on mouse down. Check the spelling, capitals are important, and it's basically, this is a method called when mouse button is pressed over the collider. That's why it actually requires a collider. And what we need here is add this item to our inventory. The point is that this is in a separate script, so if I cannot type a player inventory, that inventory, because there is nothing here. Also, you may consider making this list static, but add, and I will push like item info, and it worked. Actually, I'm quite surprised. Okay, so I will leave it like this. It isn't actually the best method, and it has more disadvantages. For example, because it's static now, it makes we won't see it here, which is quite a problem. So I will just leave it as a curiosity, but for now I will just create a reference to this game manually. So in an await function, which is used to initialize everything, I will type player inventory no, actually it should be capital. Let's say player inventory equals game object that find game manager, and this is the name, so it must be spelled right. I will just copy this guy. I will explain in a minute. That get component player inventory, and here I will call it player inventory with a small p. Oops. Why I can't do it? Okay, so it looks like I need it like this, and every variable is private by default, but I will type private just for you to make sure that we are using it here. So what happened? Because I need a reference to this script, which is attached to this game object, from other script which is attached to different game object. So in this script I'm finding the game manager, the game object that player inventory script is attached to. Then I'm clicking get, I'm using get component method, and I'm taking player inventory, which is this class, and I'm storing it here in a private variable, and now I can use it. So for example, this line gets this list because this is because I find the script attached to game manager and assign it to this guy. So once again, I'm using game object that find game manager, which returns this game object, which is here in 000 point. It has a script player inventory attached, so I'm using that get component player inventory. So it returns a class. It's actually a script representation of the class, one behavior script, and I'm storing it here. And now I can use it. Okay. So now I can click it and it added a sort. But of course I can do it and it adds more, and it isn't really what we want. So after that I will just type game object that destroy, and I need to pass object, which is the game object. It's pretty confusing that this is a game object that destroy and game object. It's very funny, but it is game object capital G, which is a class basically. So this is a method connected to a class game object, and this is of course the game object which the script is attached to. And after that, when we click once, it disappeared from a scene. You see there's nothing left in a scene from this sort, and we got it here. And now final thing, we need to save it. So I will just change my saving method. I will use input class, why not? So when I get a key down, which is a key F5, I'm gonna save inventory. And at the start, I'm gonna load inventory. So now, let's say I go here, I take the sort, I press F5. Now let's say I open up game again, and there is a still sort inventory. The problem is it's still there because we've just loaded the scene once again, and the item is on the scene by default. And I hope you get the basic idea. So I've finally reached the 13th part of the tutorial. I got confused a few times, but I hope you've got the basic idea of the tutorial, and most important, you learned something. If you've got questions, let me know. I will try to answer as fast as I can. And that's all for now. The next part of the tutorial will probably be released this weekend. And thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.